Hello again, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Fun and Games Podcast. I'm Jen Moonen.
And I'm at AK Stormageddon.
And you're listening to episode 214. And this episode, I think we're going to just start the episode again. It's not off to a good start. I was really waiting for a couple of conditions to really line up for me. I don't seem to be getting them, and honestly, it's just better to just draw and redo it again. The good run happens. It has nothing to do with you. You just got to do your best with the luck and the hand you're dealt, or the dice you roll, or the slots you pull, or the coins you throw, or whatever other random thing that just seems to pop up like a rogue. Because we're talking about roguelikes today, and especially about deck builders, coin pushers, slot pullers, and everything else amongst that. Verbs will verb, my friends, and because I need help, and Matt can only help me so much, we are joined by the indie informer Jill Grodt, and from the Playlog Podcast, Danny B. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I wasn't making faces and trying to make y'all laugh while you were doing an intro. Don't even worry about that.
You were little on my screen and hidden behind this meeting is being recorded. I didn't see any of it.
Good.
You come to my house to make me break.
I will break you.
We decided we needed indie powerhouses on this podcast to talk about indie roguelikes. And this was born of, among many other things, the incredible folks over at PlayStack and Wout specifically for providing us all with codes for the adorable and ridiculous coin-pushing roguelike Raccoin, which got me thinking not just about Raccoin, but about games like it. Like, why so many indie roguelikes over the last few years, but more specifically even, why so many based on physical games and machines and board games, from stuff like Inscription, Clover Pit, and Balatro, all of these ones that have physical elements. If they were, you can literally buy a deck of cards that's Balatro, but now it's even pivoted further to let's make a coin pusher roguelike, which is someone who grew up going to Coney Island in Atlantic City, where coin pushers were a waste of every quarter you put in them. To have one where I don't technically actually waste money is kind of nice, but I wonder why this pivot and why now, it seems like.
I have an interesting theory. I haven't thought too deeply about it. So if I'm completely wrong, and I think
Perfect.
if it falls apart mid-sentence, that's just how roguelikes go. I think it's not a pivot so much as a circle. Okay, so
I would
we
agree.
need to head back to the original Rogue, which a lot of people don't know. Roguelike is named after a game. It is, I think, at 80s. It came out in the 80s. It was
It did, yes.
a dungeon crawler type game with permadeath and very sort of niche because the kind of weirdos like us that would like it and enjoy dying over and over again to succeed eventually. Didn't quite catch on until later, but I think it started as being very inspired by pen and paper tabletop games when you're talking about your D&D essentially. And that's why the roguelike genre as it started was very dungeon crawly, very centered on generating room after room and not knowing exactly what you're going to get, not knowing exactly where you're going to go. And I think that they actually went about as far as you could, because indies are really, really good at taking a genre and pushing it and pushing
Absolutely.
it and pushing
Iterating
it.
and iterating.
And then I think at some point you get to, this has been meta already. What if we meted the meta and go back to the beginning? So I think that's maybe where we're going here, is we're going back to tactile pen and paper, hands-on sort of experiences with roguelikes. And one of the biggest of those in recent memories being Balatro, and perhaps spawning the inspiration for all of these new games that we're seeing.
Yeah, no, you've really got me thinking on that, Jill, because something like Rogue, which I double-checked, was originally released in 1980.
Yeah!
Nailed it. You're right. They were imitating not just pen and paper RPGs, which have continued and flourished into the modern day, but pen and paper of the time. This was the TSR, AD&D, early Dungeons and Dragons that had almost convention-scored competitive dungeon crawling. It wasn't just the stories that are made and the NPC interactions. It was how many things can I break and how much treasure can I get?
Mm-hmm.
This is the environment what beget the Tomb of Horrors. The idea of you learn not by watching the patterns, but by dying horribly over and over again. And remember for next time, this is Dungeons and Dragons at dungeon crawling as a Wile E. Coyote cartoon. And that is, Rogue, Ancient Dungeons of Mystery, and the like of, you make your character, random things happen, roll of the dice, and off you go. And we do get that still to this day. Diablo was very much and is a roguelike that has evolved into its own RPG-ish thing. And most RPGs have gone more where tabletop has. Coming back to the tactile pieces, and there have always been adaptations of those kinds of games, of poker, of blackjack, of slots and roulette, and, as kids, the idea of what is that gambling stuff like?
Mhm.
I remember having a little handheld video poker thing that was just in the glove compartment of my parents' car that I would play. It was Deuces Wild, and that's how I learned poker hands. And it was functionally a Pocket Station VMU version of Balatro because there were no jokers. But, we come around to those same known ideas that we then pivot around. Rogue, in its original incarnation, was solving a problem of it's hard to schedule a group of people to play Dungeons and Dragons. I'm sure that was a problem in 1980 as it is in the year 2026. But now we can play Baldur's Gate 3 online with friends no matter where we are. So yet again, it's a circle.
Yeah.
And look, I have a deck of Balatro cards, thank you, Fangamer. But the jokers don't do nearly as many fun things without the computer to do it.
Mm-hmm. And while we're talking about crunchy early D&D games, I want to shout out The Secret of Weepstone. It's going to be so good, and it is.
I'm so hyped.
It's so it's a roguelike, and it's in that vein of like y'all are fucked, So
The demo's sitting on my computer since PAX. I just haven't had the chance to play it, but it's sitting there.
I want to be there when you do. I'm gonna sit back and laugh.
I want to know. Oh, it's so good. Well, and that's the thing. The market will shift and diversify. And so one of the reasons why I certainly wanted to focus on the parlor game aspect of current roguelikes is, we're gonna have dungeon crawling roguelikes all the time.
Yeah.
I love dungeon crawling, and I love that kind of exploration. And when I played Secret of Weepstone for the first time at PAX, I lost my mind. It was my game of show. It was the presentation, the love is there, and it becomes nostalgic with that, like you said, Jill, that kind of sense of meta.
Yeah.
But that is harder to explain to people, or it's harder to talk people off the ledge when it comes to that seems very complicated and confusing.
Yeah.
My partner Sarah does enjoy roguelikes, but she didn't think she did.
Mm-hmm.
She started with Peggle.
Okay.
Okay.
The gateway drug, as we all know.
Well, she loves Peggle. So Peglin, you're a little goblin, and it's adventuring, and it is a roguelike. You earn things and you get better, and the experience accrues, and the resources go into the next run and the next run and the next run. You don't lose. And that's, I think, something that we get in the modern roguelike. In Rogue, in an 80s dungeon crawler, if you died, rack 'em up, try again, kid, and you earn nothing. The only progression and experience you have is your literal experience. But Balatro, you unlock new jokers as you play, and new decks as you finish runs. Peglin, you unlock new balls as you play and progress. So even when you fail, there is progression. Not just knowing what works for you, but having access to new ideas. And then for Sarah to try out Balatro, she knows poker hands. Cards are fine. We used to play Ascension, and playing that on the phone and having to read the cards every single time gets tiresome, tedious. I know what a 10 of diamonds is. I know what a wild card is. And you can only have so many jokers at a time, and you start to recognize them. So you don't even need to read them. You have an anchor point, poker hands. If you are playing Clover Pit, you pull the lever, you've got the slots to line up. Let's go gambling. And you change it a little. And if you started a roguelike like these with everything unlocked, it would yet again feel overwhelming. It's the microcosm. It iterates and iterates and iterates within its own environment. And we get to watch that, and then eventually you stop and you look back and you go, I thought I was playing poker.
Yeah.
Nah, baby. Balatro.
Mhm. Balatro's so good.
Yeah. I think as I sit and listen, right, where we're talking about the nostalgia and going in the circle of back to Rogue, yeah, there's nostalgia in it of going to what this genre was once upon a time. But I also think there's a level of comfort as well as personal standpoint, right? I had this conversation the other day where why are roguelikes so popular in a world where a lot more people are taking better care of themselves, getting themselves checked for who knows what, and a lot more of us have ADHD. Learning that now that I think we did as kids.
Yeah.
And as I look back, I'm like, I'm diagnosed now. And that makes a lot of sense the entire time I grew up. And nobody checked me on that, but that's okay.
Hey, I'm glad you got it now.
Yeah,
Thank you. I
congrats.
appreciate it. Yeah.
Hell yeah.
But it is watching across the board games like Hades, right? That constant reward and something that's popping up on my screen telling me that I'm like, oh, you're succeeding, or, giving me some kind of signal that the game I'm playing, I'm making progress in. Now we're talking about all these other games, the Balatros, the cursed words. I could sit here all day and make this a cursed words episode. I love this game. Gambonanza, all these other games that are taking something we're familiar with. Maybe something like, I didn't know poker before playing Balatro. I remember getting the emails from Woot over at PlayStack being like, hey, you want to check out this game? It's doing really well at Steam Next Fest. I'm like, I'm not going to lie. I don't like poker. This isn't going to be for me. I'm good. Thank you for the offer. And then everybody started talking about it. Everyone's like, this is the best game we've ever played. Da-da-da. I'm like, hey, Woot, I apologize. Can I get that key now? Can I try that?
You're far from the only person, though. If you go back and look at the original Balatro reviews, there's less than 10. I want to say even like significantly less that actually went on release date. And then you see so many of them continue to come because of that word of mouth. Like, no, you really do need to play this. Like this, it's not even about poker. I can't even explain to you what this is. You need to be playing it.
Yeah, and then I got that key and I'm like, let me play this game. Oh my God, I love it. Let me tell all my friends. And then I made a TikTok that was just like, so what is Balatro? And that thing sat at maybe 20 likes for the majority of the year. Then Balatro was nominated for Game of the Year. And that's what everyone's like, so what is Balatro? And of course, my video being, what is Balatro? Everyone's like, so what is this thing? Like, this is what was nominated for Game. This looks like trash. And, and seeing that vocal minority be so loud about a game they haven't touched. And then those occasional comments trickling like, hey, I won't lie, guys. I tried it. This game's awesome. Y'all are screaming for no reason. And people seeing that if I'm not shooting something or killing something or, going up a leaderboard, like you're not seeing that success come in from a game until you play it. Right.
Yeah.
And I think people seeing that success from Balatro and like, what is something that is so simple or that we're familiar with? I know what cards are. I know what a deck of cards are, but I had no idea what poker hands were. Like, Royal Flush was always the thing that was said, but I didn't know what that meant until I played Balatro and my head is now wrapped around it. So other developers seeing what is success from Balatro, what can we do that is similar to that? And I've always told Topher on our podcast, I love when a roguelike says, let's take the blueprint of what this genre is and do something so weird with it. And I think Balatro being that, again, Gambonanza being like, hey, let's play chess, but you have gambits, which are your jokers, and you're moving your pieces on the board. And if my pawn dies, another one upgrades to a king, and if a king dies, I get another pawn. And then I get these cycles of like, this is great. Cursed Words, a game where I don't really like Scrabble, I don't really like Boggle, but you take both of those and make it, if you spell a word with this many letters or this many cursed tiles, you get this much multiplier, and watching those numbers tick, 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 tick. I like people taking something that I may not love, a game, a board game, whatever, that I don't really care about, but putting all the Balatro bells and whistles onto it. I'm like, yeah, okay. No, you have my attention. My brain is here.
Well, you said before, Danny, that, if you're not shooting and killing something, what fun are we having? I would argue that there is such a satisfying destructive loop to a lot of these parlor game roguelikes.
Totally.
On the one hand, it is absolutely, we're at a vacation house, a lodge, we're at grandma's house, or whatever, and we've got a couple of board games in the linen closet, and I don't know if we have all of the pieces.
Yeah.
The side of the cardboard is completely rotted. It's mostly Scotch tape at this point, or masking tape. But we're gonna either play the rules or go, you know what? I'm gonna make my own damn rules, and that we're doing that.
Yeah.
The jokers, the gambits, charms, tokens, whatever. Change those rules in a way that you go, nah, like this. And something like Balatro, which has the deck builder aspect. If you've never played Ascension, if you've never played Dominion or any of its expansions, and if you have, don't start. It's fun. Don't start. It's a rabbit hole, and they're physical cards. You don't know about removing cards from your deck necessarily. That idea of thinning it out to get what you want while going on. And you play a round of Balatro, you are marking the cards, you are destroying them, you are splitting them, turning them into other things. This is crap that I wish I could do with a real deck of cards. Like, I just wish I could. I have destructive impulses that video games calm. Not violent ones.
Yeah.
I don't need to cause arson. I don't need to cause property damage. But sometimes my brain likes to go, what would happen?
Just
And
life,
just a little bit of like, I'm not going to do it. I'm an adult. I've learned to manage these impulses. I'm medicated now. This is fine. But if I can just completely I get $20 but destroy 5 cards in my deck, but they'll be fine next time. You start with a fresh pack of cards every time. And that, I think, is another aspect of roguelikes that work no matter what version they are. It's the arcade mindset with progress and without arcade predatory practices.
Yes.
I love a good 100-hour RPG, arcing story, epic things. But if I get busy and come back to it, I got to remember who are these people that I once loved. I don't need a college reunion in my fantasy world. Even Hades, while there is a progressive story, it's like, what the heck am I doing with Hades? Every time, in the name of Olympus, I accept this message. It's at this, you're starting again. And so that idea of I need to remember how to play the game is baked in.
Yes.
And that appeals to those little anchor points, those ideas that say, hey, you probably aren't going to win, but you're going to have fun.
Yeah.
It's great.
And losing is not a bad thing. I also caught when Danny said pew pew shooting alien things as a very important statement, not just as roguelikes, but for indie games, because indie games, for a lot of what they're doing, indie games as counterculture, essentially. So you have a kind of mainstream AAA gaming understanding, gaming sphere where that is what you are doing. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's very fine. But having indies be a kind of counterculture means that you start to explore what happens if you do play a card game. And I think there are a lot of people who are drawn to the idea that they can be a gamer and not have to be this big, serious shooter and I don't know how to do, have to be super skilled. And it's this very accessible, very open, very inclusive space that indies nurture because it is counterculture of the video game space to be inclusive, which is a sad statement, but it also allows for a lot of these people who would not have been in this space before to come in with games and being like, hey, I think I have a great idea for a game. Danny, were you talking about this? People coming in and being like, what's this dumb Balatro game that's been awarded things? And people said kind of the same thing, but to a less degree, I think, about Vampire Survivors.
Absolutely. 100%. I remember.
Yeah, which is in essence a game that has even less barrier to play because you are literally just moving around, but it goes farther in the idea of the early gaming because you are not told a lot. So you are finding things and piecing them together. And so it is this really weird marriage of easy to get into, and then it sucks you into a world where you're becoming really hardcore at gaming. And it's like that people don't recognize that is so wild. And I think that's also where a lot of indie roguelikes like to be. That's a sweet spot just as a business practice, because let's not pretend that indies are, as much as they are passion projects a lot of the time, they are also helping people pay their bills. And we hope that it does. To be able to have such a low barrier to your game is maybe one of the reasons indie developers gravitate towards roguelikes, because people can just pick it up and be like, oh, okay, I get this. I can play this. And if I die, I'm supposed to. I don't have to be stressed about it.
Oh, you raise a great point about control as far as entry goes. I recently played Super Mario World with some kids in my life, and they don't play a ton of video games. They are aware of gaming culture and watch like Mario Party minigame videos, and they love the characters, but becoming aware of the like, look, I played Super Mario World as a kid. I was 5 or something when it came out. Like, I learned how to play like that, and I was already doing that, and you don't realize that holding 3 buttons at the same time to run and jump is actually pretty complicated. It is actually, it's not, but it is. A deck builder is absolutely well, how do I move my character? I'm this ironclad? How do you don't have to move the character. You just play cards. If you are able to operate the computer or whatever platform you're playing on, you already have all the skills you need to then interact with a game like Slay the Spire or even stuff like Luck Be a Landlord. It's just a hit it, go, make some choices. You don't have to have fast reflexes on those. You don't have to work with keyboard and mouse to properly aim these things. There's fun things you can do, and people have a lot of fun with it. But the base point of it is have fun with it, explore it, and have that feeling grow on you. Danny, like you were saying, people just being like, no, I was playing Balatro. Oh my God. Oh no.
I get it.
This is a problem. I avoided Balatro when it came out. Not because I thought it was stupid, but because I knew it would be a problem. I didn't play it until it was December because I knew I couldn't avoid it any longer. I needed to talk about the game. It was getting to the end of the year, and I was on a call with a couple of my friends who had already played the game. This was my regular Baldur's Gate group. And so it was like, hey, help me out on a couple of things here. But otherwise, they were just sitting there like rubbing their hands together, watching me like fall for the game. It's happening.
Yeah.
Something that's plagued me for a while, mostly because there's an expectation from AAA companies to exploit a thing that's popular.
Yeah.
And when Hades came out and won awards, I assumed we were going to get a dozen AAA Hades likes, and we really didn't. We got indies that went down that route.
Oh, yeah.
But it was even a slow trickle for that. They didn't come right away. And so I think the counterculture part is an important piece of this that I hadn't quite thought of. I mean, broadly, I'm speaking about AAA. Obviously, there are great AAA studios. There are AAA games we love. But broadly, they are chasing money and trends and low risk.
Yes.
And like roguelikes, especially the parlor game-based ones and the meta-narrative ones, something like Inscription or, Clover Pit, where you're exploring a world as well, like that is like, I think, toxic to AAA studios because it's just so niche and weird in a way that they wouldn't pursue it. When we did get a very popular roguelike, it was through one of the most popular genres in AAA gaming right now, the Souls-like.
Yeah.
And, Elden Ring Night Rain did really well, I think, because even then they were latching onto a major AAA gaming trend and made it a roguelike instead of pursuing these weird oddities. And I think what fascinates me, going back to Raccoin, I mentioned earlier joking about coin pushers, but I sincerely played these games a lot as a kid. I just thought, I'm going to hit a jackpot. I'm going to win so many quarters.
Because they're all there. You see them. You see the mechanism moving. And as a kid, as an adult and as a kid, you're just like, maybe this time. This is the one.
Maybe this is the one.
This is the one. And I love having played so many video games as a kid because it means I'm not a gambler now. It would be real bad. I know this. It's the ADHD. But I'm like, look, I could take $20 to the arcade and have fun for hours, or I could put $20 on this green felt table and it's gone.
Yeah. And like, I think the thing that's fascinating about Raccoin specifically as a anomaly or trend of indie games and indie roguelikes, if you said I could have $1 million to guess the next roguelike physical trend, like parlor game trend, I would have never in a million billion years guessed coin pusher game. Like ever, because I don't think I'm sure there are other digital coin pushers, there must be, but like not popular ones. And so like I would have never guessed this. And so for someone to look at that and go, but what if, and then make it, I think is something that can only happen in the indie space, because with some exception, AAA games just won't do that. Whether it's an indie or not, although I'm still on the side that it is, Clair Obscur got to do what it did because that studio went, well, I want to make a French RPG where everything is in this weird world with these weird characters and spoilers I won't get into. And that's not something that Ubisoft, where a lot of them had started, would have pursued.
Mhm.
And I think that kind of freedom is so integrated into not just the indie scene, but this genre specifically, and then this hyper focus of a genre, because you have to be willing to get weird with it. And when it's a small studio, it's much easier. I don't want to say easy.
Lower barrier to entry.
Yeah, it's a lower barrier to entry, and it's, I think, easier to convince a team of 10 to take this risk than a team of 10,000.
Yeah.
And the investors therein.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I kind of want to pull together a few people's points. I realized something very funny about Raccoin, or I had a very funny thought about it. It is very much counterculture in that it is the anti-gacha game.
I like it. I like it.
Yeah.
Just keep well, because I think, Matt, you're right. I also would not have expected a coin pusher to be the next physical indie parlor game thing, because it's like, it is a waste of money. That's all it is on the boardwalk.
Yeah.
Jersey Shore Boardwalk. I'm a Jersey kid. I played so many of these. The boardwalk coin pusher has no strategy. You want there to be strategy, but there isn't. It's just as leave luck to the heavens as the worst but technical roguelike can be. And if you add, but what if you could throw as many coins as you wanted up to a point? What if we added these little mechanics and you could actually have fun with kind of the little bit of a shooty aspect of throwing the coins in there? What if we could add that? If a larger studio made this, you could pay real money for more coins.
Yeah.
And it is why it works as an indie game and why it exists as one.
Yeah. I'm thinking about games where I've had to explain to people like, no, it's not real money.
Right.
Yeah.
No, those coins explode.
Yeah.
This one sticks to other coins and then makes more points. And then and there's actual gashapon in Raccoin that will then make other crazy things happen. It plays with all of those ideas of put another coin in it safely and with great zeal. You can give into that urge. You easily unlock new players within the game, and each of them have their own oddness about them. And there is this, at its simplest, you shoot enough coins so that the little pusher has some of them fall and you score that. Cool. That's even simpler than make poker hands. Let's get weird with it.
Yeah. I love getting weird.
I love getting weird with it.
Another quote that we should get out of context and put somewhere.
Put on a shirt.
Put on a shirt.
But I really love this idea too of people going in, not knowing what to expect, getting into it, and then falling in love with other things kind of unbeknownst to them. So talking about like the physical kind of arcade space, we haven't touched on Ball Pit yet, and being sort of a pinball-esque experience. What I really, really love, and what I think people keep coming back to for things like Ball Pit specifically, it's not only that you can beat a level and then you feel like you've done something amazing. It's not only that you can change characters and you'll be able to have different modes of playing the game, or being able to like upgrade and having that taken from Vampire Survivors idea of, if I put this and this together, then this happens and nobody told me. But now that I know it happens, I need to check out furthermore. I think having the end of your run end in a kind of village where you are trying to build up is genius, because that's what always got me. I wanted to build up, and I think that's just such an amazing. Now maybe people are going to be more in love with a kind of builder, whereas they never were that kind of person before. Maybe they start looking at like Summer House or something just for funsies to see. Maybe I check out Gordlet, have fun building my houses sort of thing. Whereas before that always seemed intimidating. I really love these sorts of games that get you in on the premise for one thing and then kind of flip it on its head. I think another really good example of this, probably not so much to a different genre, but I really, really want to talk about the genius that is Blueprints. Like,
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, listen.
like speaking about board game experiences, okay, this is Betrayal at House on the Hill. If you've ever played that
Yeah.
game, you know that that's what
Yeah,
this game
100%.
is.
Yeah.
It is the first half of Betrayal at House on the Hill.
Yeah, you never have to betray anybody. It's great. Or do you?
I love that part.
Um,
It is a point and click deck builder is how I think of it.
Yeah.
Because you are building the cards in that Betrayal kind of way, and then you get to kind of explore within that in that meta that like Inscription allows and Clover Pit allows.
Yeah. So good. I, like you, Jen, had this opportunity to introduce this particular game to people who would not consider themselves gamers,
Mhm.
who like video games, who have nothing against them, but really like don't have a lot of confidence in the ability. Like they would play perfectly, but they wouldn't feel comfortable playing other games that they would consider quote unquote real games, which hurts my soul to even say.
I know. No, absolutely.
But to introduce them to this, because they were big fans of Betrayal, and I was like, that's all I need to explain to you is you're gonna play this game. And then suddenly the tables flip and they realize this is a puzzle. Like they didn't say puzzle game because they didn't have those terms, but they're like, I'm gonna start writing some things down. And then
Yep.
they start noticing the bigger and bigger picture. And then it's like, oh, so you do like puzzle games. Maybe you'll be interested in like Lorelei and the Laser Eyes. Maybe we get you into, and then because I am who I am, like maybe you want to try out Tunic. You know, there's some
Everything comes back to Tunic.
It comes back to Tunic, of course. It does.
Jill, I will one day learn to crochet, and I will crochet you a tunic that just says everything
put
comes
him
back
here.
to tunic.
I'll put him right here.
Yeah, right there.
Yes, and even the idea of stuff like Blueprints, if you look in the DNA and other genres, like it's a bit of this, a bit of this, a bit of this, because it resonates. It's also the old Cyan exploration games. It's Myst, it's Riven. But those games also felt so big and so wild and open. And I don't know. I mean, you play it now and it's ridiculous. It's so tiny and silly.
Yeah.
But at the time, this was the first CD-ROM game. It needed a CD-ROM to show us. Blueprints, it's just a house or just the grounds, and it's room by room. So you never get too intimidated.
Yeah.
But you can have that same exploration. And yeah, it gives you the time to, when you're not worrying about, oh, what about this? What about this? No, just have fun in front of you. There's so much in all of these. You find what you love. Even in Ball Pit, something I love about it is which characters you take down there are what genre of ball game. It's that same thing of like the difference between a taco, a burrito, an enchilada, and a fajita really are about like the size of tortilla and how you fold it. But they are all distinct. They are all different. And I've got preferences, and I imagine most do as well. But are you doing pinball or is it more breakout? Is it a little bit like Bust-A-Move where you've got the turn-based guy and you can kind of move him around? What works for you and then build from there and make your new, oh, it's this. That is the joy of any of these. You find a favorite style. You find a favorite character. Sarah is now playing the shit out of Slay the Spire.
Yeah.
She kept going back and forth on whether or not she'd enjoy it or not, then went, I love so many roguelikes. I love so many of these other games. Let's try it out. She has only played as the Silent.
Okay.
Because Sarah only plays rogues and Dungeons and Dragons.
Okay.
She likes stabby. She likes poison. She likes that. That is her kind of big hit. And it's like, play the Ironclad once and then play the next character. That's exactly it. She'll try the other ones. She's, done like 3 or 4 complete runs and is now like, okay, now maybe I'll try some of the other characters. You get comfortable where you are. And that too is you complete runs and you're unlocking things in game. You're learning solutions to puzzles that you carry to the next one. You are gaining comfort and proficiency that you are always iterating and always expanding your purview within the game itself.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to change. We're talking about roguelikes, and there are games that are now being built in the indie space, which I absolutely love, on the premise of knowledge and knowledge alone as gained by the player as the way forward, as progress. I could have done this earlier if only I had known that this was a thing, is my
Mhm.
absolute love. I mean, you see that a lot in roguelikes as well. So
Yeah.
I'm not gonna like say that's not a roguelike thing. It's just let's talk about like Grun as a really good example of that,
Okay.
actually.
Yeah.
Because you play Grun. If you haven't, I think it was like the Indie Council's game of the year it came out. It is so good. You are essentially playing as a gardener who is going to this garden to keep it for the weekend. It's almost like maybe a little Untitled Goose Game, maybe a little Thank Goodness You're Here. Kind of like
Mhm.
Yeah.
playing around and figuring out different things as you come across them, but
Mhm.
you restart over and over again. It's a little creepy. So like sometimes you die in really creepy, horrific ways. Now you're like, okay, oh, I know how to get across this bridge because I did it last time. So I picked this up and I moved it there. That's a really, really great example of a roguelike in which one of the only barriers to progress is just knowledge. And I
Mhm.
absolutely love it. Go play Grun, everybody.
There's always that case where like the game puts the time loop thing into it, right? I immediately think of In Stars in Time. It's one of those games. I'm like, so is this a roguelike? I'm like, no, but it has roguelike tendencies.
Yeah.
So maybe,
It's
but
got
like
those
not
elements.
really. Yeah, there's things about it. But like I pulled up Grun to be like, is it a roguelike according to Steam? And like it's none of the tags are roguelike. But if somebody would ask me, I'm like, yeah, it is. I even had a buddy, he had asked me, like, I don't understand Souls-like versus roguelike. I'm like, okay, ignore the like. That is just saying it's comparative to this type of genre or to whatever.
Yeah.
But when I explained a roguelike, he's like, so COD Zombies is a roguelike? And I'm like, yeah? Yeah, I guess so, huh? But like, we talked earlier, right, Jen? You mentioned like AAA, like, they don't really fuck with it all that often. Like after we had Hades, like we had Returnal was probably the big like PlayStation. Oh, we made a roguelike. And then God of War made a mode, Last of Us made a mode. But like very few
They make
made
modes.
a roguelike. Exactly. They're like, we didn't make a roguelike,
Yeah. I mean, even Elden Ring Night Rain is a bit of just like, it is a roguelike mode of a AAA title.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. That's like 40, 60. I don't know how much it is. I don't play Night Rain. But they play in that space of like, we know people like this gameplay loop. I think because there's longevity to it. It is like, if I spend my $20 to $60 on this game, I will sit here. Either I'm not good enough to beat it in one sitting, or when I do beat it, I have things to keep going and things to progress with it that make that longevity at the end. And this is something I bring up about Curse Words. I mentioned my partner Matt, we play Curse Words all the time. There's just like, we got a couple hours to sit. Let's just both do a Curse Words run. And something I really like about that game is you finish Hades, you beat Hades at the end, and they unlock the big purple crystal. Do you want to add modifiers to your game to make it harder? Yes, you can. Curse Words makes that a milestone in the main story, if you will, where like you unlock a bunch of characters and they're just like, hey, if you want to do this, you have to unlock the fairies. And a fairy is like, each time you go in between picking two bosses, one will be purple. If you beat the purple boss, you get a fairy. If you get all 5 fairies, you get the special end of the encounter, right? So it's like, cool, if I want to go this route, I can use this to unlock more characters in addition. I think for me, in something like Hades, when I beat the game and I'm like, oh, I don't need to go and prove anything to myself. I don't need to beat on the harder difficulty. Like, I'm done. I will shelf this. I'll see it in Hades too. Whereas in Curse Words, I'm like, oh, this is the challenge that's been presented to me in the middle of me playing. This is a game that was like, hey, there's still more to unlock. You have characters you haven't played as yet. You have titles and equipment you haven't unlocked. Like, what have we made it more challenging? And you don't have to do this, but there are some things you'll only unlock by doing it. And like, wow, now I have the desire, right? And that added so much more longevity to me sticking around with Curse Words and trying it on a harder difficulty. And the game doesn't make me feel like I'm lesser than by playing this game. There's no accessibility options for spelling, but maybe the whole game is like that. But I do enjoy that it gave this additional challenge that never felt required, but it didn't feel like, all right, you beat the game, pin it on to the end, just slap a little extra on there. It was something we all know people do enjoy. Let's put it in the middle so there's something to grab at.
Yeah. And other kinds of roguelikes, they will have the fun of, okay, you beat that run. You add the modifiers, you add the challenges, you have the different color chips in Balatro. Thinking on what Jill was talking about with knowledge being a big piece of a gaming experience, of satisfaction in a gaming loop, there is something fun in the random nature of a roguelike.
Yeah.
One of the things that I find that determines a roguelike is some aspect of this has to be randomized. It's not a solved game, as it were.
Yeah.
People can absolutely get themselves in a situation of 9 times out of 10, I can break this system. Just you wait, watch me. And they can, and it's amazing. But you play these games and you do your runs and you unlock things and you will find stuff and you go, who in their right mind would use this? And then you either find a circumstance where that's exactly why you use it, or you are playing Balatro and are like, man, everything's considered a face card and I've got all these things to do face cards. That's amazing. Face cards aren't allowed against this blind.
Yes,
Oh
the
my
worst.
God.
Yeah.
I hate
Well,
it.
Yeah.
How dare Slay the Spire? Every Act 3 boss counters some kind of typical deck building strategy. You can't rely on those. There is the dagger in Balatro that's like, why would you sacrifice all of your jokers like this? Who would do that? And then you get to a difficulty level where you get temporary jokers. And it's like, well, shit, I can just start sacrificing these. Oh, that's great. And maybe that works for you, maybe it doesn't. And like you were saying, Danny, something happens and you go like, yeah, no, I want to try that. I want to do that. Just whatever little thing. And the same thing with Raccoin and all of their special coins. There's times where you slowly discover that they are in different families of coins. So depending upon who you're playing as or what your charms are, what's the point of animal coins? Why is this making poop? Why would I want to do that? Oh, because it causes all of this to happen.
Yeah.
Or why wouldn't I want to make my coin holder as big as I want? Because there are charms that give you so many multipliers if you don't. Any of these pieces where you go, why wouldn't I build everything in this one way? Because it is so easy to knock over that tall of a tower. You quickly discover at the start of each run, I've got to build a tower, but what kind of tower am I building here? And what will I discover on this run? Not even just unlock, but discover. How will these synergize and play together? What strange mechanic, again, to the idea of in Tunic, which is not a roguelike, but a wonderful indie game, and I also love it. Everything that the game teaches you over the course of the game, you can do from the beginning, but you don't know that yet. And there are so many roguelikes like that as well, where you didn't realize that you were able to make this happen. You didn't need to. But as things go on, as you unlock new coins, as you find new jokers, as you add new cards to your hero's deck, it was there the whole time, but you weren't ready yet. The experience your character gains is your experience as the player.
Ultimately, what makes these games special is it gamifies repetitive nature, right? I think about how growing up, like all we had were the games we had, and you played those games over and over again until you mastered them because it's all you had. You got one game a year maybe, and then you just played that game. And if it sucked, guess what? You're still playing it because it's what you got.
If it sucked, no, it didn't. You've got to play it.
Right. And that's how one of your favorite games becomes Mendel Palace. But what's interesting about gamifying that loop and the failure is when they make it not feel like a failure, I think, or you end up in those comedic situations. I think the reason Hades opened my eyes to loving roguelikes is because no matter how many times you died, you got story. Another character was in the starting area. You got another conversation. You got to pet your dog Cerberus again, right? Like all of these very important things, like petting the dog, that made you want to keep playing and keep going back. And I think what is really interesting about them, this branching to the parlor game style ones, is that there's a tactility in the repetitiveness as well. Obviously, everyone loves number go up. Who doesn't love number go up? But like the thing is that the number never just goes up. If you think about Ball Pit or Balatro or Raccoin or Clover Pit or even Inscription, when number go up, also loud noise, explosions, and a variety of other sensory overload things. So not only do number go up, but it's pretty. And I think because all of these games are more basic in their design, I think about Vampire Survivors, a game I have still not played, but have seen a lot of. It's just an explosion of pretty lights and colors, but that impact eggs you on. There is stuff in what I've seen of Elden Ring Night Rain that like also is a reward. You see the giant boss fall down, you get the thing, you get the reward. It says in big letters, enemy defeated. It's a similar kind of thing, but I think when in the indie space you are making a simpler or smaller scale thing, you can go more overboard with that. And it also harkens back to the stuff that a lot of us grew up with. A lot of them are pixel art or pixel art adjacent. There are roguelikes that aren't, but a lot of them do lean into that aesthetic. And I think there's a nostalgia to it as well, right? I think it's not just a nostalgia in the game design of chasing that rogue from back in the 80s, but I think nostalgia in the look and feel of it as well. The sound design, the soundtracks, the music. I mean, I'm going to be hearing the Balatro theme till the day I die forever because I heard it
good.
so much.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Never got tired of it.
No, never. And I think that lends to the simplicity as well. It's not easy to make these things by any means, but I think leaning towards accessibility and simplicity in the design and the music as well adds to that experience, especially when, to use Balatro as the example, like there are several songs in that game, but for the most part, it's the one song and you hear it over and over again. And yet none of us got tired of it because of how well composed that music was. And I think that just adds to the drive of the experience.
Yeah. To look at the flip side of that, Raccoin, see what I did there.
Hey.
I think there is also, it's not just from a smart business aspect that people are in the indie space are making games that harken to the pixel or things from our childhood because they're trying to like target anyone. I think there is a lot of in the indie space, you are making what you would like to play, what you are passionate about. And so you see a lot of people who are our age starting to make games. So they make the things that hit them the hardest, and the things that hit you the hardest tend to be the things that you did in your younger years, your formative gaming experiences. I'm so interested to see as we go on and these people who were born in 2000s but are adults now
Terrifying.
As they begin to kind of take the mantle on of the indie space that's always growing and always changing. Like, what are we about to see as the main nostalgic look? What are the things that they're taking as, y'all hear about this really old game called Balatro? Like, like what are they doing and taking? I know, right? What are they doing and taking to change out this roguelike genre? And what are they going to be focusing on? And I really like to think about that, but also I'm a little terrified about it as well. I think some of it that we're seeing is just absolute genre bending is really, really interesting.
Yes.
I'm thinking of Midnight Bro. I'll look it up. It is essentially a Vampire Survivor parkour builder. And I'm like, that's not a game that should exist. That's a bizarre mixture of things that works really, really well. And it's in the sort of like, you're getting more into like PS2 era graphics. Midnight Horde. There we go. So I think, do we get more and more wild, unbridled mixture of genre? Or do we get to a point where that's so meta that we go back to just simplistic, this is your basic roguelike?
I think we're gonna get both, honestly, because video games are art in the same way that music and film and literature is. And there again, things will ebb and flow. The punk movement and punk genres will go bigger and smaller, streamline and expand based on reactions and iterations on what is going on. Jill, you're absolutely right. We bring our history to what we do. And so we're going to bring our nostalgia. And all of us as kids played things that were of the time and things that were of any older siblings or cousins we had, of our parents, things that were around. Playing jacks and cards is old-timey, but they still make them, and kids still use them. I learned how to play cribbage so I could play with my grandfather, and some of my fondest memories with my grandfather were playing cribbage with him.
Cribbage roguelike, it's coming. I'm calling it. Calling it right now.
Matt's making it.
Idea.
A friend of mine is a huge mahjong fanatic. She and her wife actually have one of those cool-ass mahjong tables. She got it from China that, like, it opens up in the center. It's got 2 sets of tiles. You push it in there, and it automatically shuffles it. And, like, you sit at the 4 spots, and it, like, pushes up the rows for you. Already shuffled. So I've learned how to play mahjong. And it's so fun. And it is all that's deck build. Like, you're building a hand in a communal way. So it's like, yeah, there are absolutely Mahjong roguelikes. And I haven't tried any of them out yet. They're on my wish list and I got to get around to them. Some things do go away. Trends will rise and fall, and we absolutely have things just like, man, remember when everybody was really into bacon like 10 years ago in Brooklyn kind of thing? Like, they still make bacon. I still like bacon, but there was a time where it was like, oh, that was really big. And that's going to come back in some way. And I live in New York City. I go to other cities. I see weird-ass monstrosities of food that I enjoy that involve bacon. We're going to play strange-ass games that will use N64 3D Collectathon stylings because now the games can be built with a big enough environment that you don't run into the same camera control issues. And we know better how to use dual sticks for the camera manipulation. The genre wasn't bad. It just wasn't ready yet. And we're getting those games of, hey, remember this game that kind of sucked or people thought it sucked? Let's try it again. Let's do more with it. And yeah, we're going to get some weird ass roguelikes out of it. Because also roguelikes are a great way if you've got a small team to build longevity into your game, if you want to go that way. I remember a couple of years ago saying that it felt like every game I played in its indie game and its genre hyphenation had roguelike in there because it was a procedurally generated room kind of situation. Whereas this, for like parlor games and other kinds of non-dungeon crawling experiences, Vampire Survivor experiences, and the like. Well, I didn't think of it, but that doesn't mean it's not going to be really fucking fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think roguelikes are a more versatile genre because the subject matter can be anything.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
one of the early roguelikes I played that wasn't parlor games based, but was based on something close to me because of the kind of day job I had for a long time, was Going Under.
Yes.
First
game.
Absolutely love it.
Like, it's about startups. And besides podcasting, I've worked as an executive assistant and office manager for many, many years in many different places. And for a while, I did a stint at a variety of startups. And let's just say that game gets a lot of it right as far as the subject matter. But like, again, not a thing I would ever thought of. Or even, you know, you look at Megabonk, which was so huge last year. That has those PlayStation style graphics. But it's still a dungeon crawler. But like, now you're playing as a skeleton on a skateboard. It's not that roguelikes are more versatile. I think that the developers within those spaces want to be more experimental because like, it's not an indie, but I'm currently playing through Immortals of Avium. For those who don't know what that is, it was a magic-based first-person shooter that came out 2 or 3 years ago now. And I was always interested in it because it wasn't guns and army. You like Call of Duty, that's great. Not for me. I don't like military shooters. The reason I'm enjoying Immortals of Avium is because, you know, they're slinging spells and there's this fantasy and Gina Torres is there. But like, it didn't really do well, which is a bummer. Like, the studio had mass layoffs because it didn't sell because it wasn't fitting into the AAA niche of, you know, sci-fi shooter or military shooter. And that's a bummer. And I don't see that with roguelikes a lot, especially in the indie space. You know, Saros just came out, and it's the spiritual successor to Returnal, though I'm convinced it's actually connected to Returnal, and no one can tell me otherwise. I won't believe you.
You got to get to the end of the game.
I know. They're similar in presentation, right? They probably are very different, but like based on what I've seen, because I've not really spent a lot of time with either of them, they seem similar. Like they're still riding this like vibe. Whereas you just don't, I feel like, see that in the indie space. You know, you're just as likely to get a Dome Keeper as you are a Megabonk, as you are a Darkest Dungeon, as you are a Black Jacket, as you are a, you know, Super Fantasy Kingdom, tape on tape, a hockey roguelike, right?
Yeah, so good.
When you're in this space and the idea is, I want a game loop that loops, but what else? You can just go to more wild places. I mean, I know for you, Danny, one of your favorite pair of roguelikes is a dungeon crawler with a twist, which is the Moonlighter series. And that
don't get me started,
They
man. Don't get me
just added
started.
cute little friends, by the way.
Blobs?
The blobs.
No, you're totally right, Matt, because I did, you know, the episode Side Quest. I think that was my first one, right? Side Quest was Moonlighter. It was one of those games that I just saw on the eShop on the Switch that was on sale for like $4. I'm like, it looks cute. Let me give it a shot. The shopkeeping sounds fun. And it is shop during the day. I put in the prices, I do whatever. And then I go out and do all the dungeon crawling. Oops, I died. I dropped some stuff, but I take what I retained, go back to the shop and guess the prices of like, hey, would you pay $5 for the stick? Too much. I understand. How about $2? Too little. All right. How about $3? Perfect. Nailed it. And like, after that, it was so quiet then, like the wiki existed, but like, it wasn't all filled out and everything. And then that game continued to gain an audience. And I'm like, guys, I was here first. And I really like Moonlighter. Listen to me and tell me how great this game is. And I remember joking with Tobe for the longest time. I was like, it was great, but it was still niche enough. I'm like, this will never get a sequel. But I will continue to be like, Moonlighter 2, when's it going to happen? And Triple I, maybe it was. I forget which showcase it was that they like showed Will. I'm like, shut the fuck up. No. Oh my God, no, they're not.
They were
Topher?
not.
Oh my God, they're actually doing it. I gave up hope. This was never going to happen.
They heard you.
Yeah, and listen, the one person who asked for it, no, there's plenty of us. But yeah, like it's that weird thing right now. We're getting the conversation of early access, and like we could probably do a whole episode on that, on what that really means anymore. But like, it is such a well-polished game, even though it has changed so much. I love it just the same. Yeah. And they actually changed the market stuff back to what the original one was. There was this whole change of like, you lose rarity of stuff in the dungeon, which is still there, but like the shopkeeping and price guessing was very different in the demo. And they really reverted back to what Moonlighter 1 was proper. But I think the dungeon crawling thing was never something that appealed to me. It was never something that I wanted to do in most games. But the shopkeeping is what kept me into Moonlighter, which then ultimately made me love the dungeon crawling, which was like any game that looks like this, right? We had Call of Boba. We had 2 or 3 announced like the other day. I think one was at the 6-1 Showcase. Where I'm like, is this Moonlighter but blank? Like, and that's where I love that formula where a game says we are the Balatro like, we are the Vampire Survivors like, we are the thing that started, maybe not the first to do it, but we're the one that popped off and people copied us. The Hades like, be what you will. So even though I don't think universally we call it the Moonlighter like, the shopkeeper like or whatever, I will see those games and I immediately tie them to Moonlighter. So knowing that there are roguelikes that are like, what do we do and mess around with this? And I forget the timeline for Dungeons and Degenerates Gamblers and Balatro and which one got announced first but came out first. But
I feel like
that's muddied.
Balatro came out first.
Okay, but I feel like Dungeons was announced
first. I feel like that's correct.
But Balatro got the legs.
Yeah, it also had a number. It was in a couple of Steam Next Fests. It wasn't in just one. And like, it took maybe its second or third one before people really started picking up and it started getting the hype rolling on it. So so I'm not sure.
But like, you could imagine there's someone, and I don't want to make ill will, assume someone's sitting there all upset and grumpy about it, but like someone who worked on Dungeons and Degenerates is just like, we did it first. But like, why does everyone like Balatro more, right? But like, and I imagine something did what Vampire Survivors did, right? The really simple, like just walk around the map and blow things up. But that was the one that popped off, right? Yeah. And then you have Rotato, you have Dead Engine, you have insert all the other Vampire Survivors likes, right? Yeah. And I think that goes back to what I was saying earlier about this level of nostalgia where like nostalgia seems like the wrong word, but it is that familiarity and that comfort of, I know what the basis of this game is. I know what a Hades game is. And last week I've covered Echoes of Mistralia and Fury Ball, which are both Hades but blank, right? Like I love Echoes because it's Hades, but the spells are on like an automation system. You get like this chart where you put your spells in a certain order. But if I put make it big before set it on fire, that'll do something different than set it on fire, then make it big, or whatever. Like it has those different things. I'm like, this is so much fun. And it's not that like, oh, this is nowhere near as good as Hades was, but it is, here's Hades with a new thing. That makes my brain go, oh, I like this. This is brand new. This is an entirely different thing. I know some people hate the comparison, right? We're getting off of roguelikes, but recently I covered a game called Koshmar, The Last Reverie, I believe. Looks rad. Very reminiscent of Alice Madness Returns. So I mentioned that in the video. Let me tell you, the Alice fans, not a fan of it. Don't love it. Don't compare this trash to my game. And I'm like, why? Why are we upset? Yeah. And I would love to sit down with someone and unpack what makes them upset that I'm like, it looks like this. Do you not, I know your follow-up game got canceled. Do you not want something similar though? Like, is that whatever? But I think being able to make that comparison, right? And tell someone who may, like we mentioned earlier, like the not so much of a gamer who is, I don't really know games like that, but I have played Hades and I'm like, cool. If you like Hades, here's 5 other games I think you'll like for this, but this, or again, Balatro, Vampire Survivors, etc. And I like being able to give someone that comfort by knowing it's something you like, but different.
And I think a lot of indie games have a lot of fun in blurring those lines. You don't necessarily have to stay in lanes. So sometimes that is a great way to get people into whatever experience. Like we've been talking about this entire time, which that's a nice thing. But I love the game Cobalt Core, and I haven't played it nearly enough. And I love shoot 'em ups, and I love space strategy. I suck at both. Better at shoot 'em ups, but I'm no anybody who says they like shoot 'em ups, I feel like have to be really good at them. And so that's my own gamer bias. But there are like many roguelikes give you the joy of taking your time, even in its original incarnation of Rogue, in Balatro or in Raccoin or any of these. For the most part, you can take all the time you want to make your next move. And then you can also stew in how screwed you are or trying to figure it out. But you are just like, it doesn't need to be fast-paced.
Yeah.
Then there's things like, Crypt of the Necrodancer, which is absolutely fast-paced, get good. But that's also rhythm games. And that's to its style. But being able to take a piece of a game and it's like, oh, I do like space shooters. Oh, I do like puzzle games. I do like card games. I do like builders. I like negotiation games. I like pinball games. Again, Sarah started getting into roguelikes through Peglin, and she loves pinball games. She loves any of those. She hasn't quite gotten Ball Pit. It doesn't quite work for her. It's a little too breakouty, a little too whatever. But something like Fury Ball might be what gets her to try Hades. Why shouldn't we all chase the same idea? We're all coming at it with our own experiences. And as said before, a lot of indie creators, a lot of smaller studios are making the games that they want. So let's celebrate that and find where that leads us next.
Yeah.
The joy of roguelikes or the unpredictability.
Danny and Jen, you've just made me want to go in like 5 different directions for talking.
Do them all at once, Jill.
Here we go. Are you ready? Roguelike it. Talking about games that enter some sort of like take your time, either with playing with time or just it's kind of turn-based. So good. There are so many. We talked about Enter the Chronosphere coming out in early access. So good. It is one of those genres that people can be really intimidated about because you're running around, you're shooting, there's a lot of explosions happening. You may not know exactly what to do, but it's so brilliant in the fact that the game only moves as you do. So if you need that time to sit there and kind of like look and take a breath and be like, what am I about to get into? Enter the Chronosphere is such a good entry point for people who might not otherwise pick this kind of game. Same thing with Shogun Showdown. I don't know if any of y'all played this.
Okay.
I haven't
really,
played it
really
yet.
good.
I've been watching a lot about it, though.
It is a very strategic game. You are all on this like single line. It's got like space, one line with like 5 spaces or something. And your character moves. And as your character moves, everybody else goes. So you have to plan out, okay, when I move, that person's an archer. They're probably going to shoot me. That person is behind me and they're like a swordsman, but they have to get 1 foot in front of me in order to actually hit me. So if I move this way and I block that way, no one can get me this round. And it's a really much more of a puzzler than any kind of action game, like building confidence for people who might not have thought about these games before. There's no roguelike that isn't for somebody, even if you think you're not a roguelike fan. Danny, you hit me in the heart. I felt it. I want to talk about the Cassandra syndrome of being an indie space. Cassandra, for anyone who doesn't know, is a princess of Troy, Greek mythology, who was cursed by Apollo to always say true prophecies, but no one would ever believe her.
Oh no.
So there is always something very us in particular, people who are in the indie space whose job it is to like highlight and talk about indies, where you are screaming your lungs out, blue in the face, trying to be like, this is a game you guys need to check out. Yep. Why aren't you checking it out? And no one ever hears you. And then maybe someone catches it on fire somewhere else. And you're like, no, I was here. I was me.
Telling you.
How dare you?
Go back and check the dates. Check the receipts. I said this.
every time someone plays Chrono Trigger for the first time, they tag me and go, Matt, why didn't you tell me about this game? And it's like, I want to tear the internet in half. Well, and I think the trend chasing also, you mentioned, Jill, like trend chasing feels bad in the AAA space because I think they go after the wrong things. They focus on the wrong details. I think of the Fortnite
Live
likes
action.
and like, you know, live action, whatever, like chasing the things that seem trendy for the wrong reason, like worried that after the Barbie movie, we were going to get a G.I. Joe movie, a new one, and they're going to like not understand why Barbie was successful. Yeah. It's not about the IP, it's about other things. Like they already talked about a Polly Pocket movie coming. Like I think the reason indie studios don't fall for that is because they're not chasing a trend of like, how can I monetize this thing? It's more about how can I make this thing fucking weird? And like, that's my favorite thing about the roguelike genre, a genre that is very hit or miss for me. It is really difficult for a game to grab me. Like I played a lot of Ball Pit. I still don't know if I like Ball Pit, but I definitely played a lot of it because I never beat the first stage and I put a lot of hours into that game. The thing is about a game, a roguelike genre, like you were pointing out, is even though I bounced off that, I did love Balatro. I did like Hades. I did like Hades 2, what I played of it. I need to play more of it. I think there's a roguelike for everyone because people, not only are they personalizing what they grew up playing and translating it into this space, the accessibility options continue to grow in this space too. There's the God mode in Hades that allows you to gain more resistance as you die each time. The fact that Raccoin and Balatro, you naturally unlock these decks and characters that allow you to play differently or give you an advantage, right? Not to poo-poo Souls-likes, but I downloaded a mod to play Silksong and ended up becoming one of my favorite games I've played this year. But I needed a damage resist mod so I could survive just a little longer in the boss fights. So it would take me 9 attempts instead of 40 attempts because for my sanity, I needed that. And I get why the studio, Team Cherry, didn't put that in there. And they want to stick to their vision. But I'm also grateful for modders to give me this ability to access this game that I would have otherwise given up on. And I think as roguelikes get bigger and diversified, like I think of Rogue Prince of Persia, right? Has some things to allow you to, you know, gain access, or like newer Metroidvanias that are coming out with easy modes. Or look, I want to shout out Mina the Hollower. Like,
my God, I was going to bring it up if you weren't. I was like,
embargoes? Yacht Club did a whole video about, hey, look at these 3 pages of different modifiers to either make the game harder or easier. Take your pick. Because I'm so tired of just make it easier. Here's an easy mode. Grateful for it when it's there, but like, I want to customize my experience because like I need more damage reduction in Mina. I'm assuming I haven't gotten that far yet, but I don't need the bosses to be weaker, right? I still want the challenge of figuring out the patterns as long as I can take a few more hits, which is why I brought up Silksong earlier. And what I love about the dungeon crawling space specifically of roguelikes is that they are adding these things to allow players who may have already given up on these games to either come back and try again or enter the space at all because they feel confident to try. I like to rag on first-person shooters because I pretended I didn't like them for a long time, when I do actually. But Doom 2016 brought me back because they had an easy mode that wasn't called baby mode. It was just easy, and it reduced this, increased that, told you what it changed, and then let you run free in that space. When people start to take seriously those who need help playing games, whether it's the result of just skill or something else, it makes me want to engage in the genre more. And a lot of roguelikes, more and more of them are having those options, or are very open about, well, here's what you can do, or here's a walkthrough on how to do X. And I love when the developers are providing that stuff. You know, journalists will always create their reviews and their walkthroughs and all of that. As studios give that accessibility more and that openness to letting the player in on what they can do to optimize their experience, I think it's only a net win for the entire genre. And other indie games are doing it too, but I think roguelikes are very much known for their challenge because you are meant to die often and over. And so the fact that they still give you things to circumvent that, if you really want a beeline to whatever the end is, I think that only makes it better for everybody.
Yeah. I think mentioning of like accessibility, right? And I don't think we've mentioned yet the difference between a roguelike and a roguelite.
Oh my gosh, yes.
In this conversation, right? I had this conversation in the comment section the other day about I believe roguelites with a T are all roguelikes with a K, but not necessarily the other way around, right?
Yeah.
Because the thing that makes a roguelike independent is there is progression. There is the meta progression of I beat something or I lost, but I do get more health. I do get more defenses. I do get a new weapon, a new whatever, right? I honest to God cannot think of the last roguelike that we got. Because like, what game do I play where I no longer get anything, right? And I think that's what really blurs those lines. But I think what makes them so accessible now is that even though I am going to lose 15 million times, we'll keep bringing back to Hades, right? I do get to go back in the cauldron. I go to, to Hecate and like, let me upgrade this thing, or let me get this new thing that spawns this plant every time I come back so I can upgrade this for myself. Or I increase my max health. I increase my max defenses. I'm upgrading armor. So all these different things are happening. And I think that's a great thing that maybe by accident or maybe intentional on somebody's part, like the roguelite introducing what is not an easy mode or a hard mode, but is saying like, hey, the game will remain the same, but we are making you stronger progressively, whether that is you leveling up or it is just you getting new things that you didn't have 10 runs ago. I think is such a simple and quiet way of making something more accessible, though it does still require the grind. It doesn't mean just go in and get all, I'm the big God mode strong thing now. I do like to think about that. And now I am wondering what was the last roguelike that released, because I cannot for the life of me think of what that would be.
I want to jump on this because that was an idea. That was one of my branching ideas of like zooming so far out right now. Genres, especially in video games, are absolute bullshit.
They
like,
are.
Yes, correct. Yes, correct.
The thing about genre in gaming is that it's all sort of we're building the plane as it's flying.
Yeah.
The things that genres mean in video games don't mean the same things as they might mean in other places that might not mean what you think it means, like adventure game. So many people I know who are not involved in video games don't understand what an adventure game is from the aspect of gaming, because they're like, oh, adventure game is a game with adventure in it. I get it. No. An adventure game is basically something that doesn't have enough of anything else to be called anything else.
If it's not a little yellow square moving around and fighting a giant duck-looking dragon, then it's not an adventure-like. And it's not a true adventure game. Okay? Right. Sorry, gamers.
So that's why we continuously get these like increasing like Souls-like, roguelike, Metroidvania is the new one that I really enjoy.
Yeah.
There's an argument about whether or not to call this genre this. Like, some people hate the moniker. Some people, like, there were people, genre. I can go so long on how bullshit genre is. There were people who hate the moniker of Metroidvania because that doesn't, it is self-referential. Yeah. If you already know, then you know.
Yeah.
So it's the same kind of thing with like roguelike versus roguelite. I feel that we have majorly decided to kind of drop the roguelite and everything.
I agree.
That everything we say roguelike is now what we would have considered roguelite. But when it was first introduced, we're like, okay, we need to differentiate between the like permadeath horrificness of the pain that is Rogue.
What's easy and what's a hard real game, like differentiate too, because that what for the longest time is like, oh, this makes it easier for you. Nah, sorry, not a real game.
Yeah. You're not using ASCII, you're using tiles for your graphics.
It's
like a baby's toy.
Yeah. I mean, we could do a whole separate episode on genre, and we have, and we will again. It's like I was talking about Silksong earlier. Silksong is a Metroidvania, but it is also a Souls-like.
Yeah.
But it is also an action platformer. None of this matters or makes sense, right? I equate gaming genres to music genres in the sense that they only make sense for the people they make sense for, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
Pop to one person means one thing, and pop to another person means another thing. It used to just be popular music. Now it's whatever pop star is at the top of the charts right now, right? But that doesn't help because Chappell Roan doesn't just make pop music. She does R&B. She does bubblegum pop, whatever, right? So I think in video games it's the same. But I think what's fascinating about roguelikes and lights and this topic in general is just the idea that we can kind of nitpick this, but I think ultimately the loop, the death, And what you gain is what makes a modern roguelike.
Yeah.
Because, again, basically since Hades, I think is like one of the most popular ones to do it, games now often give you something for it, right? And other games were doing it before Hades as well, and others will after. But I think that's the one that really popularized it and set an expectation for games to do that going forward. And I think it's why also games like Blueprints, which wasn't for me, struggled for some people, is because there it's the knowledge. You're not gaining anything really in that other than knowledge. And if you're dumb like me, have a case of the stupid,
I believe in you.
You're not gaining anything.
I believe in you. You're getting it.
And so the genre will continue to evolve as we even tweak those things. Like, what are reasonable rewards? What if we don't get rewards, but we get knowledge? What if we don't get rewards, but we get characters? What if we don't get, whatever it is? It's the natural evolution of how this genre will continue to define itself as it then gloms onto action platformers, dungeon crawlers,
arcade,
Metroidvanias, arcade, beat 'em ups, right? Absalom last year.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my God.
Never would have thought of that.
But playing to the arcade experience.
Right. And I think that's the real future of roguelikes, and what this parlor game sect of it is telling us is that it will continue to glom onto other genres and see how it can warp them into the format in a way that is incredible and ridiculous. And I think that is something very unique to the roguelike versus other genres. It's not that we can't do it, and when it does happen, we create stupid sentences like Metroidvania or phrases. But I think it tells us that that's why there's a versatility in this genre, even though all genres are made up, that we might not see in other genres. It's both nondescript and very descript at the same time. And so it can attach to these other things.
Yeah. I want to zoom out even more on the genre topic, because we talked about roguelike, but this episode is about mainly indie roguelikes, which is why the indie heavyweight champions are here to fight, I guess, me and Danny.
Whoa.
Is that what we do here?
Yeah,
I thought it was in my contract.
Yeah, that was what I read.
I was wondering about that belt you got there, Danny. Like, okay.
Yeah, I brought it. I was told I got to fight Jill tonight, but
yeah, that's what I
still
was ready
waiting.
for. To widen out and talk about indies as a genre, like that conversation will never end, and I constantly have that. But it's very interesting because we were talking about like Rogue Prince of Persia and sort of where we're going in the future and that sort of thing, and what is indie is just changing as well. So we have currently a lot of different types of games that are coming out where it is undeniably an indie developer making an indie style game in connection with, presented by, usually trying to avoid any sort of like published by language of a AAA studio. So we're seeing that with like Castlevania coming up with like Motion Twin.
Yeah.
It's such an interesting conversation to have for me because I am absolutely 100% covering indie games. And that is my entire reason of being. So like, is this the new indie game? Which is, it's a great thing because indie games are getting a much wider audience. They're getting more attention. They're getting funding in a way that perhaps they would not otherwise. And on the AAA side, they're getting games that are more sustainable, that come out more often than every 7 to 10 years, that don't take $1 billion to make, and are pushing their IPs in different ways with all of these things we've been talking about with roguelikes, of like pushing the genres, adding different things. It's such an interesting conversation to have on whether those are indie at all and what indie is, or is this a good or a bad thing? Is it exploitation? Is it like advancement? Again, genre is all bullshit and all of these like categories we make. But it's really, really interesting to kind of dig into, especially as far as like what the future looks like. And maybe this is it. Indie game as presented by AAA IP or studio.
Yeah, and I think this comes up most of the time when it comes to talking about Haze Light, right? And being published by EA, but Joseph Ferris and the team, they are independent. And I don't know how much financial backing goes into it. I don't have all the information on that. But like, I'd go to my grave and be like, yeah, I think Joseph and them are still indie. I think
Yeah.
Hadesight's still indie with a lot of backing, but then I think it's the same conversation we had last year with Claire Obscure, right? With like they were on all the Xbox marketing and former developers of Ubisoft, and seeing how many people don't understand quite like the independence is usually the main thing. I've always used the example, like imagine some billionaire is like, I don't want your company. I just really like your vision. Here's $1 trillion. Go make this thing happen, right? It's just ultimately a really successful Kickstarter.
That's
by
just being a
one
patron.
person.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
right,
exactly.
Right. Yeah.
Which like, I don't think takes away their independence. It's just a weird, yeah, you had more money than Local Thunk did to make Balatro or whoever did to make, whatever other game.
I find it so interesting when people conflate like underdog and indie or like
Sure.
obscure
Yeah.
and indie
Yeah.
or
Mhm.
like struggling in indie. So like
Yeah.
when you see Hades start to like people are starting to say, oh, Hades is not an indie game, where it's like there is no parameter in which anyone would consider it anything but an indie game.
Yeah.
Right.
And
It's a
what they
successful
really
game, and that's different.
that's what they mean.
right.
That's what they mean.
Yeah. It's mainstream.
As gaming continues to grow, it has more in common with the movie scene. I think about Iron Lung this year, right? I've been a Markiplier fan for a while. I loved the game Iron Lung, which is an indie game. It got me back into horror games. That movie was independent, but Markiplier also has a majillion, making up a number of
There you
fans.
go.
And he went, go see this movie. And they all, me included, went and saw that movie, and it made $1 bajillion. And then he split the $1 bajillion with his cast and crew because he's not a company. But now everyone else is like, well, now other, like Jacksepticeye is attached as a producer to this Bloodborne animated film. And he's a huge fan of Souls-likes and Bloodborne specifically. So it will probably benefit from it. But like, you see these things start to break down because it's mostly the larger companies don't know what the hell to do with this information. And also, like the indie style, like A24 does some brilliant stuff. A24 is technically indie, but is it? Because it's like Devolver Digital, right?
Yeah.
Like
Right.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
just say
Bigger-
Devolver,
Yeah.
the bigger you get, are you really indie? What does indie mean? And I think we're never going to really kind of be able to drill down on that. It goes back to Jill's very brilliant thing. We should put on a t-shirt that genre is bullshit because you have to define it for yourself. And I mostly try and caveat when talking about genre, and we can caveat with this whole episode. It's our perspective on the genre. It's when we did that What is Indie episode all those years ago with Jill back then.
Yeah.
Like, that's a conversation that has not ended. We have stopped having it, but it never ended, and we could do it again. The biggest reason, beside wanting to highlight a particular indie roguelike that I really liked, I wanted to talk about this topic because there is no answer. My favorite topics that Jen and I come up with are ones where we go, here's a question. There's probably no answer, but let's talk about it for a while. And we have. Ultimately, the zooming out that you're doing, Jill, just puts a finer point on the start of this, that there is no real right answer and that we're just trying to navigate it. I think of the Dave the Diver of it all, right? Like that game wasn't indie, but aesthetically it was because we associate pixel art and 2D graphics with indie. But there are tons of indie games that aren't doing 2D anymore, that are doing 3D polygonal graphics. So that doesn't even, like, one of my favorite roguelikes that I played at PAX East was Polyfighter, which was
Shout out.
awesome.
Oh, yeah.
That's a 2D virtual fighter like where you're playing a single player roguelike, but it's a versus fighting game, right? And so I think all of these descriptors will continue to break down more as people more clever than anyone on this call will say, what if I take this and put it together? Oh, there's no word to describe that? Well, here's one I've made up, right? I think it's why it will always shift this way.
To conclude that ultimate thought, this episode, indies are bullshit, roguelites are bullshit, Raccoin, great. Go check it out.
Yeah, honestly, play Raccoin. And I recommend playing it on Steam Deck if you're playing it on PC, because you use the shoulder. It does get a little twitchy as far as like picking some stuff, but you get good at that pretty quick. But you get to shoot the coins using the shoulder triggers. And there's some
very satisfying.
You know, this is not a video podcast, but I'm showing everybody, like, I'm just kind of miming hitting the buttons. It's
Crab clawing it.
I am crab clawing this.
I was watching Jen just
It looks so good.
do things with her fingers. Just, hey, what's up? Yeah.
What are you doing? Playing Raccoin?
Yep.
In my heart.
No, I got the habit of using like Q&E, I think it was. I'm just laying back here. I'm just like, yep. Oh, what anime's on? Yeah, Q&E. Put those coins out.
And like, again, it is also great on keyboard. And you rock that and it's all good. And you get into like a rhythm with it if you want to. It's a lot of fun. But yeah. But Jill, Danny, thank you so much for coming on and chatting about this with us. I would love it if both of you could take a moment and let everybody know what you get up to and where they can find you.
Please, Jill, by all means.
Okay. I was going to let you go first, but
I insist.
Stop being polite. Somebody do it.
considering you're going to lose this fight at the end.
Oh, damn. You know, fine. I'll go first. Hey, everybody. I'm CGDannyB. I love talking indie game news, reviews, whatever we choose. Jill started talking shit. Now I'm not polite anymore. I am one of the co-hosts for Playlog Podcast. We've been on a bit of a pause for Topher with some scheduling issues. I'm hoping to get some people back here in the near future. I've already talked to Matt here about doing a Mina episode in the near future, dragging some other people in, as well as what we got Summer Game Fest coming up, Steam Next Fest in a couple weeks. So I'm going to drag friends. I'm going to bug Jill at some point for either one or the other. We'll see. Maybe both. Who knows? So stick around for Playlog Podcast. Otherwise, you can find me on TikTok, Blue Sky, Instagram, Twitch, and TikTok, talking about indie games, all sorts of places, what's coming up, reviews, etc., etc. And I like to roll dice sometimes. If you like to watch me play Daggerheart on Thursday nights over on Crit Hit Chronicles, I'm playing Kynell, who was a robot built to help plants, and now he's trying to save the forest, and he doesn't understand humans. The last episode is basically like, let me teach all these organic people about sex. It was a great time. I love Kynell. He is so ignorant and beautiful. But that's me. Now you can go, Jill.
Thank you. Yeah, you can find all my stuff at theindieinformer.com. It's a website all about indie games, highlighting everything from III to the one-person show who you may not have ever heard about. Some of the things that are going to be really helpful this week, because as Danny says, we are heading into a very busy time of our lives. For the summer showcase season, I have a list of indie-friendly events up right now. There's also a list of indie game releases. This week is wild. I hope y'all continue to play indie games. You can also check out the Indie Council, a podcast where I meet with the leading voices from across the indie industry to talk news, titles, and everything indie. And we will probably have a lot to say about this month and probably what's coming up in Summer Game Fest. So go check that out. You can see that on YouTube. You can go check us out on Blue Sky at the Indie Informer for Indie Informer stuff and at theindiecouncil.com for those.
Thank you both again for joining us. This was a pleasure, and I know we could probably go another 2 hours, but I need to go to bed. Lame.
I actually have a recording to do after we're done.
Oh, no.
I just let the director know. It's like, it's going to be a few minutes. They're perfectly fine. It's just the two of us. It's fine. At this point, listener, we put it to you. Why should we rename every single genre RPG and just come up with a different acronym for each of them?
Yes.
Whether it is a randomly procedural grind, whether it is a repetitive parlor game, whatever it may be, tell us what your favorite RPG genre actually is. Let us know. Get in touch with us. Tell us why we should have talked about claw machine roguelikes and what genre of game is a physical claw machine. There's so many great ways to reach out to us. We are Fun and Games Pod across all social media that we are currently active upon, which as of this episode is Blue Sky, Instagram, and Tumblr. You can email us at funandgamespod@gmail.com. Let us know what you thought of this episode, what you thought of previous episodes, what you'd like us to talk about, and who you'd like us to talk with in future episodes. Let us know your wildest takes about a roguelike genre. What kind of parlor game is the strangest thing you have seen as a roguelike game? And what has surprised you in the iterations and development that has gone on over the years, and what you think about genre being bullshit, because it is. You can visit certainpov.com and find not only other fantastic Certain POV podcasts, but a permanent invite link to our Discord server where a lot of these topics begin and a lot of these conversations continue, and we'd love to see you there. If you like what Matt and I are doing and have the means or desire to support us, we do have a Patreon. Patreon.com/funandgamespod. There is a free tier where you can get access to the RSS feed for all of these episodes and as side quests as well. You can vote on the polls for what our next console retrospective is going to be, or get a one-stop shop for all the things Matt and I are working on. If you are a patron that is giving any amount of money, you get these episodes as soon as they are done being edited and posted, which might be a day before or way before. Who's to say? But you'll get a little closer look into our process. And we want to shout out those on the high scoreboard. Today, the high scoreboard is Alex Lavelle, Case Aiken, Daniel Nyden, Sean Bowen, Film It Yourself, Dave Jackson, Tales from the Backlog, Alejandro Alves, Curly Bright, and Chris Copleen. Thank you so much for your support. Please enter your initials. Any vowels will be worth double score, but the second half of the alphabet consonants on the current meta will have a subtractive effect on your score, but any deviation you take from your natural initials in order to gamify the system will summon the Yeti.
Love it.
I wish this was a video podcast so you could just see me disappointed. I'm going back to Hades.
Also, if you want a free way to support us besides joining the Patreon at the free tier, you can rate and review the podcast on your platform of choice. Also, go rate and review the Indie Council and Playlog. Any podcast that you listen to, rating and reviewing is one of the best things you can do to help that podcast grow and grow their communities, because we are nothing without our communities. So please go do that.
And whether you're drawing cards, shooting coins, rolling dice, delving dungeons, selling wares, or just having fun, and if this is your first episode of Fun and Games, thank you so much for being here. We couldn't do this without you. This is a conversation. Thank you for being a part of it. I'm Jen Moonen.
And I'm Matt A.K. Stormageddon.
And happy gaming.
Do you have a gaming subscription service like Xbox Game Pass or a crazy backlog and don't know what to play next? Well, 1H1D might be for you. Join me, Chris, and my college buddy Tom as we play a random game or a requested game for an hour and decide if it's worth playing past that hour. We go over the good, the bad, and maybe some little tidbits about the development you might not have known. Got 30 minutes? Give us a try, and if you like it, throw us a 5-star review. Try something new. You never know what might be your next favorite game.
CPOV. CertainPOV.com.